Okay, today I am going to demonstrate the first sketchbook assignment. So you should have an assignment sheet. There might be a different due date depending on when your semester is. But the first sketchbook assignment is cylinders and cubes shaded. It says lightly sketch 3 cubes and 4 cylinders on your sketchbook page. Make sure they are at least 2 inches by 2 inches. Shade each form following the example on the back of this sheet. Be consistent with the direction of light. Erase outlines. Values show the edges. Values are blended. A full range of values are used and show good contrast. Use the shading techniques hatching, cross-hatching, scumble, and stippling. So the medium should be your HB pencil, except for using the black felt tip pen on the stippling part. So make sure, and it's in bold, it says to follow the example on the back of the sheet. So when you flip the sheet over, it has a format right down here in the bottom left-hand corner. It says format for sketchbook assignment number 1, arrows indicate the direction of light. So this is what your paper should look like. 4 cylinders in a column, 3 cubes in a column, each one with an arrow pointing for the direction of light. And then they should go in the order of hatching, cross-hatching, scumble, and stippling. Now remember, part of your sketchbook grade is on your ability to follow the directions and the quality of your drawing. So please make sure that you follow this format and show that direction of light for each one using all these different shading techniques. And then here's a little example of a cylinder and a cube shaded in hatching. So even though it says to use your HB pencil, you should always start with your 2H pencil just for the sketching part. So when you start with your cylinders, always start with the oval shape for the opening. And you're not going to be able to just draw a circle or an oval on the first try, so make it sketchy. Go over it several times until you get a good oval. And then the 2 sides coming down should be parallel vertical lines. And then the bottom of the oval should match the curve of the bottom of the cylinder should match the curve of the oval for the opening. It's a round base, so it should not be flat. So there's 1 oval, and I'm going to go through and make 3 more. Sort of made mine a little bit big, so my last one is going to be a little bit shorter as long as I have enough room to fit it in. If for some reason you make yours too large, you can always put the 4th cylinder on the back page or another page of your sketchbook. So I have my ovals now, my cylinders, so what I need to do now is just sort of clean them up, use my eraser, get rid of any lines that are not a part of my cylinder since I was pretty sketchy with them. Make any corrections, clean up any areas. And then what you need to do is make your lines ghosty by using the flat part of your eraser. In the end, we don't want to see any outlines. We only want to see values creating the forms. So there's my 4 cylinders, and now I need to make my 3 cubes. When you make a cube, it should be in 2-point perspective. So that means you're going to start with the corner line, vertical line, and then the lines going out, vertical line to create the back edge should be parallel to the original. And it's in 2-point perspective, and hopefully you've reviewed 2-point perspective or remember it from Art Foundations. You don't need to have the horizon line and vanishing points for this. You just need to draw a cube that has that illusion of being in 2-point. And just make sure you don't make your cube, it shouldn't look like this, to where you have, well, first, it shouldn't be in 1 point. In 1 point, you start with a square and then have it going off into the distance. That's 1 point. Knowing 1-point perspective is good, but that's not what we're doing for the sketchbook assignment. And then the other thing you need to be aware of when you're doing 2-point, you make the 2 sides first. And then when you make that back corner, you don't want to have it sticking up like this. It should look like it's flat and going back into space. So don't have those lines going up, making like a roof line. That's not what we want. So just watch those things when you're doing your cubes. So there's my first cube, and then I'm going to draw my other 2. And notice how many corrections that I make when I'm drawing. You need to be willing to make the corrections. You're not going to be able to draw things perfectly the first time, every time. So once I have my 3 cubes, I'm going to do the same thing, clean up any edges, and then use the flat side of my eraser to lighten up the pencil lines from the drawing, because we don't really want to see those when we're done. So there you have it. I've got my 4 cylinders, my 3 cubes. The next thing I need to do is draw in my arrows for the direction of light. Should be coming from the left. And then for the cubes, the direction of light is coming from the upper left-hand corner. And now I can start the shading process. So now that I have them all drawn, I can grab my HB pencil to use for the shading. Now remember, this top row is hatching. Second row is cross hatching. Third row is scumble. And then that bottom cylinder is stipple. Use your felt tip pen. So I'm going to start with my cylinder. When you shade the cylinders, they should look like they're open. So like it's an open can. So if my light is coming from the left-hand side, my lightest value will be on that left side. Darkest value will be on the opposite side, leaving a little bit of room for reflective light coming from the, pretend it's sitting on a table. The light's coming from the left, it's hitting the table. It's going to reflect up a little bit on this edge. So it's not going to be super, super dark along that edge. I would always shade your hatching in a diagonal. And just think about how you can build up the values Stay in the same direction the whole time you're shading with hatching. You do want to have some lines hitting that edge where it's light, otherwise we won't be able to tell where that edge of the can or cylinder is. And notice how I'm slowly building up my values, and I'm going to just keep overlaying my hatching lines. This is my core shadow right here. It's still going to be dark along that right side, just a little bit lighter to show how it's wrapping around. You want to show a lot of control around the edges with your hatching so it looks purposeful and not like you're just throwing some diagonal lines in for shading. Once you have the outside of the cylinder shaded, you can shade the inside. Now remember, if the light is coming from the left, the darkest part on the opening is going to be on the left side because the light is going to be hitting on the inside on the right. Don't forget to use strategies like squinting to make sure that your values are blending well together. And also don't forget to use things like your eraser. If I feel like I got a little bit dark, I can just pick up a little bit of that value. And then I can fill some back in if I got too much. It's a great thing about pencil. It's very versatile. You can fix your mistakes, clean things up. So there is the first one of hatching. For cross hatching, you're going to follow the same idea of where the light is coming from, but this time, once you do your hatching lines, you're going to cross back over them. So I'm going to start again with my core shadow, lay in all of my, or a lot of my hatching lines first, and then I'll go back in with the cross hatching. And then I can just keep layering my hatching and cross hatching lines to get that full range of dark and light and medium values. Use your eraser to clean up any rogue lines that are going outside. And again, use great control around edges. And there is the hatching. Scumbling is a controlled scribble. So you want to make sure that you don't do it in perfect little circles, but that you change the direction of your scribbles and scumbles as you go through the shading process. Just like hatching and cross hatching, you can layer your scumbles to create those darker values. Don't fill it in so much though that you can't see it or that it begins to look like gradual shading. When you get to the lighter, medium areas, just do less scumbling with the bigger spaces in between. All right, the last cylinder that you need to shade for the first sketchbook is the one that is done with the felt tip pen using stippling. The first thing you want to do is make sure that your felt tip pen is in good working order. It doesn't have a smush tip, it's not drying out. Please get a new felt tip pen before you work on this. So when you are doing stippling, just remember, the closer the dots, the darker, the farther apart, the lighter the value. You want to make sure that you use really good control, making nice dots. They aren't too fat. You're not making little comets with little tails on them. And you can't erase the felt tip pen, so make sure that you start out slowly and build values as you go.
Like new sunglasses, like a brand new pair of jeans. I feel like taking chances. I feel a lot like 17. I feel like windows roll down new city streets and cabs. I feel like anything can happen. You take me right back when we were kids. Never thought I'd feel like this. Like when I close my eyes and don't even care if anyone sees me dancing. Like I can fly and I don't even think of touching the ground. Like a heartbeat skip, like an open page, like a one-way trip on an aeroplane. It's the way that I feel when I'm with you. Brand new. Brand new. I feel like a young John Cusack, like making big mistakes. I feel like for the first time in a long time, I am not afraid. I feel like a kid. Never thought it'd feel like this. Like when I